everybody, and thank you for dropping by to the very first episode of the Jank Think Tank. The goal of this series is to help you bring ideas, or to help bring you ideas for deck techs or combos that you may not have been aware of, or things along that line to your local Magic games. Now, as the name of this series suggests, the combos or deck techs that we are going to be bringing aren't really along the competitive levels. We're more of the casual play groups, the casual combinations, the fun stuff that you may not play in your local game store. Whereas, they are competitive. We hope to bring you a lot of fun stuff because that's what we'd enjoy, is it not? For our first episode today, I'm going to be bringing you one of my personal deck techs, God Eternal Oketra. The goal of this deck is to basically play as many creatures as possible to gather the effect of God Eternal Oketra and just flood the board with either tokens or utility creatures. Now, Josh here is... Hello, Josh.
Hey, what's happening?
He's going to be my co-host. He's going to be my partner in crime for the time being. And we're here to just talk about stuff and just have a good time and bring the deck to you.
I'm super excited for this. I'm excited to see what you've come up with. Having seen your works in the past, yeah, I'm excited is an understatement. So
I'm excited to be here.
I think let's just jump right in.
Jump right in. All right.
Jump right in. Let's see what you got here.
All right. So what I've got for the God Eternal Oketra, this is the deck tech. I put it into tapped out earlier on in the week, so that way I could have it handy for you guys. As I mentioned, the goal of the deck is to take advantage of God Eternal Oketra's ability. She states she is CMC, or Converted Mana Cost 5, 3 and 2 white, legendary creature, zombie god. She has double strike, and whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 4/4 black zombie warrior creature token with vigilance. When God Eternal Oketra dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library third from the top. And as you can see here, I have 44 creatures, 8 sorceries, 8 artifacts, 2 instants, 2 planeswalkers, 6 enchantments, 29 lands. A little low on the land side, but we'll get to that in a minute. To start out, I'm going to switch this over to Converted Mana Cost, and we're just going to make our way up, essentially, from 1 drops, 2 drops, 3 drops, 4 drops, 1, 2 drop, 3 drop, 4 drops. Sorry.
Oh, that's awesome.
Here we are. So let's see. 2 drops. I have 8 1-drops in this deck. 8 1-drops. And as you can see from earlier, I have 44 creatures. Definitely taking advantage of God Eternal Oketra's ability. First one I'm going to talk about is Dauntless Bodyguard. The reason I put Dauntless Bodyguard into the deck is because it offers a sense of protection. If someone tries to remove one of your other creatures on the board, and you have Dauntless Bodyguard onto the battlefield, the chosen creature gains indestructible until end of turn.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's not hexproof because, hexproof is just as good, but indestructible for things that say destroy target creature or something is more powerful in it or just kills it through combat damage. Dauntless Bodyguard is a good creature to have. 1 drop, turn 1. Or later on, when you have God Eternal Oketra on the battlefield, it's a 1-drop. It's a 1-drop.
I like it.
So the next 1 CMC creature I have is Healer's Hawk, which is flying in lifelink. Once again, turn 1, Healer's Hawk, instantly start gaining life the next turn. And it has a sense of evasion because it has flying. Also offers protection from anybody who has other flying things. It's a silly card. I like it. It's a birdie.
You can't go wrong with birds. I mean, you really can't. Flying is just a powerful mechanic in itself.
It is. The next card is Sacred Cat. Once again, lifelink. You're in mono white. You're not going to be in a situation to where you don't want to use white's ability to have lifelink or do any kind of life gain. Mm-hmm. That's what white does. It also has Embalm for 1 white mana. which Embalm states that you exile this card from your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a white zombie cat with no mana cost. Embalm only as a sorcery. So turn 1, have the Sacred Cat. They have a Hasty Boy or whatever and gets rid of it later on. You can then embalm it to have it back. It's pretty useful. The whole embalming mechanic was actually really cool. I believe in one of the command zones, not recent, it was a while back. It was during Amonkhet, when they played one of their commander games, one of the episodes of Game Nights. I don't want to give any names because I could be wrong. But one of the decks had the embalm mechanic as the commander, which allowed them to sort of evade the commander attacks. It's a pretty cool mechanic.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It's the blue and white one.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who.
Jeez, I'd have to
that's going to drive me nuts. I'll pull it up here for you.
All right. Yeah, because it's really cool. It was either part of me wants to say it was Mel Lee, but I don't think that was right.
Yeah, I know it wasn't Cash.
Definitely wasn't Cash. Cash had the Naya lady who later turns out to be a planeswalker. She gives creatures haste and stuff. Jeez. I'm gonna get planeswalkers. There we go. Pull this up real quick because that's going to bother.
First episode hitters, we're getting them out right now. That's how we roll here.
Sure is. I mean, we're a bunch of casual stuff.
Duh.
Now, did Amonkhet have a second set? Amonkhet had a second set. Hour of Devastation.
Yeah, it was Hour of Devastation. But I know the episode.
Cash played Samut.
Okay.
Not the tested, because planeswalkers can't be your commanders, but he played the creature one.
Yeah.
All right. But anyways, we'll figure all that out later. Moving onward, the next one-drop creature that I have listed here is Serra Ascendant. Serra Ascendant states lifelink, once again, and as long as you have 30 or more life, it gets +5/+5 and has flying. Commander, you are starting out at 40 life. So turn 1, Serra Ascendant, you already have a 1 mana 6/6 with flying and lifelink on the battlefield.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yep.
That's dirty. I love it.
It is, and that's why it was an instant include into this deck. Because turn 2, you're automatically hitting for 6 because your opponent's very rarely going to have an answer turn 1. And if they do, so I had a turn 1 Soul Ring, and in my usual commander play group, there's another guy named Josh. Love him. He's basically my brother. He got angry that I kept getting turn 1 Soul Rings, and he had where is my mind today? The blue counter spell that says counter target spell at the beginning of your next upkeep, pay 3 blue, or you lose the game.
Oh.
That one.
He played that turn 1.
I played my turn 1 Soul Ring, and he went no and counter spelled, and then was like, I don't care if I lose. You're not getting that Soul Ring.
I don't know about you, but every game that I've played, at least with my play group,
Pact of Negation.
That's one. But anytime I've seen a turn 1 Soul Ring, it always, at least 75% of the time, I almost feel like it backfires on the player.
It does, because you're seen as
it either turns into archenemy, or the Lords of Chaos say nope, and that's it.
Pretty much, because you have that turn 1 Soul Ring, and you're like, I kept this 1 land hand as long as I have that turn 1 Soul Ring, and then you don't draw a single land for like the next 6 turns.
Yeah, and then your soul dies. I get it. So
Soul Ring guys.
To follow up, it was Mel. She
It
played
was Mel.
Vizier of Noctamum.
See, I do know my stuff every now and then.
That was a good episode.
It was very good. I think the Amonkhet set was really fun to see play, really fun to play. But moving on with our one drops.
Moving on.
Soul Warden. Once again, this card has a series of life gain to it. Whenever another creature ETBs or enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Turn 1, have this on the battlefield. This deck is 44 creatures, so you are going to be playing creatures. And not to mention, it says whenever another creature, not non-token creature, but a creature ETBs, you gain 1 life, which also stacks with God Eternal's Oketra's ability. Because whenever you cast, you automatically get a 4/4 black zombie. Doesn't matter if the creature you're trying to cast is countered, you automatically get that 4/4 zombie.
Because that's the triggered ability.
Mm-hmm. And so it automatically triggers Soul Warden. It's 1 life, but it's 1 more life than you had before. Moving on to the 1-drops, non-creatures, Deafening Silence. You have mostly creatures in this deck, so this is going to be hurting the board more than you. Each player can't cast more than 1 non-creature spell each turn. You turn 1 this. It's kind of like Soul Ring, which is right here, Soul Ring. Mm-hmm. It turns the game into archenemy, but it is a form of protection for you.
Yeah.
Because let's say you're playing against a sticking with the Amonkhet, the Locust God.
Mm-hmm.
The Locust God decks usually, at least the ones I've played with or played against, are a lot of non-creature spells, just getting you to draw cards, wheel effects, draw cards to get those locusts. This helps shut that down. Same thing with Niv Mizzet style decks or any kind of spell slingers. Calamax. Calamax, one of my favorite decks that I've currently upgrading. It kind of prevents that from happening. And later on, they can remove it. It's fine. Normally, by the time they do remove this, you're well off.
Mm-hmm.
You're farther ahead. But that's it for the 1-drops. Moving on to the 2-drops, which I don't know.
Oh, no, you missed a big one.
You
missed a big one in the 1-drop.
So, thank you for catching that, because I thought I had said it earlier. One of the best 1-drops in mono white is land tax, because one of the very few things that mono white does not have is ramp, other than outside of artifacts. There's all sorts of artifacts that allow you to keep up, which I've got them listed throughout here somewhere. Commander Spheres, 1. Mm-hmm. Land tax, at the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you may search your library for up to 3 basic land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, and shuffle your library. It says it right there. It's a great card. The price of it is definitely warranted. This is a $30 card.
Mm-hmm. But like you said, mono white does not get the ramp that you're going to get out of green,
exactly,
blue, or even black. I mean, red struggles, but no, it doesn't struggle anywhere near what white does.
Right.
So, turn 1 land tax, hell, even turn 2 land tax, you're going to be sitting pretty.
Turn 2 land tax is probably going to be better than turn 1 land tax.
Okay.
Well,
depending on the opening hand.
It's debatable. It all depends on your opening hand, yes. Let's say, so the person to your left plays a land. Next person plays a land. You're the last in rotation. Person plays a land, you play a land, land tax. Next person, 2 lands. At the beginning of your upkeep, you're going to have 1 land compared to everyone else's 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually rescind my statement there. Turn 1 land tax is pretty freaking good.
So would you say turn 1 Soul Ring or turn 1 land tax is a one-way trip to arch enemy?
Well, definitely turn 1 Soul Ring, because depending on the deck, turn 1 Soul Ring, you can play a land, doesn't have to be colored.
Mm-hmm.
Soul Ring into a 2-mana artifact, such as Arcane Signet, or a Rakdos Signet or any of the 2-mana artifacts. So you already have on turn 1 mana from your land, 2 mana from your Soul Ring, and then 1 more mana from any other artifact that you have. Let's say Arcane Signet. So any turn 1 Soul Ring can lead into Archenemy, whereas land tax, you land tax and then you have to wait until your next turn. To be able to benefit from it.
That makes sense.
All right, so I believe that's all the 1-drops this time.
It is, yep.
All right, cool. 2-drops. I had to start out with this one because it's an auto-include in almost every single one of my decks that has any kind of token ability.
Mm-hmm.
Altar of Dementia. Especially in Aristocats. Haha. The Aristocats. Oh, it's a great movie. Aristocrat style deck where you're sacrificing a lot of things to get benefits. You're not really planning on sacrificing things, but this is one of those, like I said, jank combos that you have.
Mm-hmm.
God Eternal Oketra, you cast a creature. You get that 4/4 zombie. Let's say you cast what's a good example? Court Street Denizen. Just off the top of my head. You cast Court Street Denizen. Get the 4/4. This is a 2/2. You don't want the 2/2. Altar of Dementia. Make them mill 2. Or heck, sacrifice the token. Make them mill 4.
Oh.
It's mill. And mill is resource denial, which is brutal, but so rewarding to it's almost cruel to see them, the sense of enjoyment I get to see them like mill like a Crater Hoof Behemoth and they don't have any like recursion or just mill that one spell like a board wipe that would have ended your career. It's so sad. It hurts and it almost makes me feel bad, but the key word there is almost.
Yeah, that's one of those where you just kind of sit there and you have to have that poker face and go, that sucks for you, but I'm
do the beard stroke. Just
oh yeah, yep. Well, that's all about the beard stroke.
I shaved mine earlier. I just trimmed it up a bit, but it is what it was getting pretty long and unkempt, so I shaved it down.
That's fair.
All right, next on the list we have Anointed Priest. Once again, it's a life gain. Whenever a creature token enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. You're going to have a lot of tokens enter the battlefield from not only God Eternal Oketra, but from of the other cards. Let's say Leonin War Leader here. Okay. Whenever it attacks, create 2/1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink that are tapped and attacking. The ETB triggers Anointed Priest. You gain 1 life from the creatures, and you gain the life from the creatures attacking from whatever damage they deal because they have lifelink. Next up is Bishop of Wings. Whenever an angel enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 4 life. Now you say, angel, but we have 4 zombie tokens. We'll get there.
Angels and zombies. Duh.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
God and zombie. God Eternal is a zombie god. You can't have gods without angels.
And he's a zombie, so you can't have a zombie god without zombies. So yeah, no, makes sense.
Exactly. But his second ability states that whenever an angel you control dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Now, this just says angel. It does not specify whether it needs to be a non-token or a token angel.
Okay.
So you, as we'll show later, this ability will be, it's one of those jank combos. Because let's say you have Anointed Priest on the battlefield. You cast a creature, whichever one. Let's say you cast Soul Warden. You don't get the sorry, wrong creature. You get the triggered effect from God Eternal Oketra, and then I have another card in here that states that whenever a token is created into the battlefield under your control, create a 4/4 angel instead.
Oh,
and so
I'm seeing the jank.
Yeah, and so you create, instead of the zombie token, you get the 4/4 angel token, And then whenever that dies, you get the 1/1 white spirit creature token, which then it triggers Anointed Priest. Once again, you gain that 1 life. So it's super roundabout, but there's a lot of synergies that I put in here that they're janky. They're not meant to be competitive. They're there.
It's definitely taking advantage of your ETB effects.
Mm-hmm. So next 2-drop that I have is Blind Obedience. The first word here is super important. It's extort. Now I have something that always gets failed to mention in white decks, and something that always comes up. It's a mono white card, but it has a black pip. It is playable because that black pip is in a reminder text. So you can play this in a mono white deck or a white black deck. You can't play it in a mono black deck because it costs 1 white in its actual CMC. But that black pip is in a reminder text, so it is playable. Excuse me, sorry. And then the second text says that artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. It's another form of disruption.
Yeah, I've played against that card. I love using it on people. I don't like it when it's used against me.
Right? But kind of like in the Ruric Thar deck. Urbrask, the hit is on the battlefield. All my creatures have haste. Someone plays Blind Obedience. Now that haste is literally nullified because all my creatures have to ETB tapped anyways.
Yeah.
So it's there. It's a thing. It does a thing. Cliffside Rescuer. Once again, gains protection. Someone tries to remove God Eternal Oketra from the battlefield. You don't want it to. Sacrifice Cliffside Rescuer. Target permanent you control gains protection from each of your opponents until end of turn. It's a decent card.
It is, especially where it says from each of your opponents. So it's not just one person, not just one color. It's sorry, guys.
Yep. This card cannot be removed. Suck it.
I feel like that's a common thing to say in a game of Commander.
Suck it. Oh, Containment Priest. Moving on. Containment Priest, if it will pop up. Flash whenever if a non-token creature would ETB the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile it instead.
Ooh.
Once again, a series of disruption. Let's say someone has a Sheoldred on the battlefield. They try to continue bringing stuff from their graveyard. You flash in Containment Priest, they exile whatever they're trying to recur. And that's just an example. There's several different forms of recursion in Magic the Gathering. Sun Titan, for example.
Oh,
if you want to get out of the Black Realm. It's a good card. And it's a creature. It's a utility creature that offers protection. Daxos Blessed by the Sun. You're in mono white, so his toughness is going to be if you have only Daxos on the battlefield, his toughness is going to be 2 because his white pips are 2. So if he ETBs, he doesn't enter with 0, and then you have to sacrifice him. As he ETBs, his toughness is going to be 2. And then, once again, life gain. Whenever another creature you control ETBs or dies, you gain 1 life. Back to the Altar of Dementia. If you are sacrificing your tokens, you gain 1 life from sacrificing your tokens. If you have him on the battlefield and more tokens are ETBing, you gain 1 life for each one because it doesn't specify non-token or regular creature. Gift of the Estates. Sorry, did you want to say something?
No. I guess the one thing, Daxos is just one of those ones that you're really able to abuse in so many ways. Now, for those of you who have no idea what I mean when I say abuse, we're just taking the abilities and using it to our advantage, which in Commander, that is like a big thing. You want to be able to abuse the abilities, the themes within the deck to give you the advantage.
Exactly. And the whole thing about this deck is enter the battlefield effects because you're wanting to cast creatures, and you could cast like vanilla creatures that have no effects on it. But seeing as how the deck is mostly creatures, you are then denying yourself like the same kind of help instants and sorceries and enchantments would then provide, because let's say you have a bunch of 1/1s that don't say anything, a bunch of 1/1 white soldier creature tokens with vigilance, or not even tokens, just creatures with vigilance. And they're taking 40 of your slots, which that's an over exaggeration, but you are then denying yourself the same kind of protection and resources that you would get from your regular sorceries. And at that point, you just might as well not even play the deck, because it's not going to be fun as you continue to cast stuff, get a token, and then other people are like board wiping, they're interacting with the board where you're just like, here's a creature.
It's like, I did something. Yay.
Yeah. And so you with this deck especially, there's a lot of things about ETBs that I really wanted to abuse. So that's kind of why I got a lot of cards that had like, whenever a creature ETBs, you gain 1 life. Because it's harder to kill you, right? If you have a lot of life.
Yeah.
You kind of like several times I'll be playing. I'm like, I play a land that gains me 1 life. I'm winning, guys. I'm winning because I have more life than the rest of you.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, that can be the difference between really winning or losing. Just with how the game is played and all the different effects that take place. So
next up, we have Hidden Dragon Slayer. Once again, lifelink. This one's a little different because it has Megamorph. The Megamorph ability triggers God Eternal Oketra as well, because you are casting this card as a face down 2/2. So you cast it for its Megamorph cost, you still get that 4/4 zombie warrior creature token.
Oh, okay.
The turning up ability does not trigger it, though.
Okay.
When you actually morph it, it doesn't re-enter the battlefield.
Because that's the board state ability at that point.
Right. So you can cast it face up if you need it, or you can cast it face down. Both instances will trigger God Eternal Oketra. Okay. And then when you turn it face up, it's a removal spell. So destroy target creature with power 4 or greater and opponent controls. One of the biggest frustrations that I have with a lot of the new sets, especially in Brawl or MTG Online, there's one particular dragon that frustrates me. I love using it. It's called Terror of the Peaks.
Yes. Yeah, that.
It's really frustrating, and so he's a really good card to help get rid of that kind of thing.
Yeah, Terror of the Peaks. We have a love-hate relationship. More hate than love.
I think we all have that.
I love Terror of the Peaks when I'm using it, especially when I've got Obosh the Prey Piercer on the battlefield, where I double Terror of the Peaks ability or the damage it'll output. And then if you throw Fiery Emancipation in there, it's even more.
Now, at that point, you're just being cruel. Let's be honest. At that point, you're just being cruel for being cruel, just for the point of it.
But I have to admire the particular name, Hidden Dragon Slayer, given this scenario. Yeah, just out of nowhere, just by the way,
your dragon is slain.
Boom. Well, and even taking out commanders, whether it's like Sliver Queen or those bigger the dragon as well. I mean that's another one.
Ruric Thar.
Yeah. Ruric Thar.
It's a good removal for a Ruric Thar because you're not casting a non-creature spell; you're activating an ability. Whereas Ruric Thar, if you try to cast it by playing a damage spell, let's say you double cast Lightning Bolt, you're going to be taking damage for casting that, whereas you won't for Hidden Dragon Slayer.
Is that now? And I realize this is a quick tangent. Ruric Thar's ability triggers even if it's on the stack when casting.
Yes.
Oof.
Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, Ruric Thar deals 6 damage to that player.
Ouch.
Yeah. So it is cast. Next up, we have Imposing Sovereign. It's another. Where's it? Another. Oh well, I don't remember which card.
It's another form of blind obedience.
Yes.
But in creature.
Yes. Exactly. It's on a creature. Knight of the White Orchid, a ramp spell. Great ramp spell. When Knight of the White Orchid ETBs, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you may search your library for a plains card, put it onto the battlefield. It's ramp on a creature, which is what we want to be casting.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, this isn't ramp, but it's to help prevent the ramp players. Magus of the Balance. 2 CMC, 1 and 1 white for a human wizard. You can pay 4 and a white, tap it, and sacrifice Magus of the Balance. Each player chooses the number of lands they control equal to the number of lands controlled by the player who controls the fewest, then sacrifices the rest. So to kind of sum that up, you have minimum 5 lands. Let's just go ahead and say you have 5 lands instead of trying to get wonky with however many artifacts you may have.
Mm-hmm.
You have 5 lands. Each opponent has like 8 or 9. Pay your 5, sacrifice Magus of the Balance. They have to sacrifice their lands down to 5.
Ooh.
So if any of your opponents are ramping, or even if it's just one opponent ramping, you can help bring them back, kind of rein them in, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have
that's brutal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it never feels good to get rid of your lands.
Mm-mm. No,
it doesn't. So like how they banned what is it? Worldfire?
Yeah.
Worldfire. No, Worldfire is
no, it's oh my gosh.
Anyways, it's the one that destroys all lands. There's a card that
there's Armageddon. Armageddon will destroy all lands in play.
That's the one I was thinking of. Armageddon is the one that's been banned. Worldfire, I don't believe it has been banned yet. I could be wrong. Worldfire banned.
For those watching, if you've never played Magic, just so that you're aware, within Magic's history, there's over 20,000 cards to choose from. There's a lot. So, there's different variations of cards. And so every now and then you'll hear us say, oh, hold on, let me check Gatherer real quick, because Gatherer is a godsend.
Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm on the Magic Wizards banned list. So Worldfire doesn't do exactly what I remember it doing, but it is banned. It is super banned. Worldfire says pay 6 and 3 red, exile all permanents, exile all cards from all hands and graveyards. Each player's life total becomes 1.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's super banned. it's super banned.
It's super banned.
It's no good. But yeah, there's going back on track. Getting rid of people's lands doesn't feel good. But if somebody's going off and they're like ramping out of control and they're playing all sorts of big stuff while the rest of you are behind, you can even politic, be like, hey guys, do you want to only have 5 lands and kind of bring this guy under control? You Magus of the Balance can be that kind of politicking key.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Marble Diamond. Once again, it's an artifact, adds white mana to your mana pool. Mind Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Add 2 mana, add 1 generic. And this is what I was saying like earlier. Turn 1 Soul Ring into Marble Diamond, ETB's tapped, or turn 1 Soul Ring into Mind Stone. It's Soul Ring, as one of my good other friends says in my play group, he is a firm believer that Soul Ring should be banned in Commander. I don't think so, because I think it does add that small archenemy concept to it.
Mm.
And I find that enjoyable. But he believes Soul Ring should be banned entirely because of how crazy it can get and some of the combinations that Sol Ring allows.
Yeah, but then that opens the can that I'm just gonna peel open a little bit. I'm not gonna open it all the way, because we could do an entire podcast on that.
Right.
But I would say cards like Jeweled Lotus are a lot more right. I just said, and you're like, ugh.
Yeah, just
those honestly, I think disrupt the game more because we'll take Oketra for example. Play your land, boom. Okay, then you turn one Sol Ring, Jeweled Lotus, sacrifice the Jeweled Lotus, boom. You have a turn one
God Eternal Oketra.
God Eternal. That's going to completely change the entire nature of the game moving forward.
Exactly. And so how they deal with that card, I don't know. I only have one copy. I pulled one copy from my box, and I'm okay with that.
Lucky.
And it's only in my. Hey, no, you want to know lucky? My friend pulled a foil Jeweled Lotus out of his box.
So the other YouTube channel that I do stuff with, the Clever Magic Community, we pulled out of the group of content creators that were classified under, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were one of the first to pull the extended art foil Jeweled Lotus, and I'm just sitting there going, that card. That card.
All right. Rein it back in. All right. Yep. Return to the ranks. It's a sense of recursion. It has Convoke. Your creatures can help cast a spell. Each creature you tap while casting the spell pays for 1 or 1 mana of that creature's color. We're in mono white, so they're all going to tap for white.
Mm-hmm.
Return X target creature cards with CMC 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it affects Soul Warden. It affects any of these 2-drops. If you have a bunch of zombie tokens, you can tap them all to help cast this spell. Heck, you can hard pay it if you want, but it's a sense of recursion.
Mm-hmm.
Renown Unicorn. It's a 2-mana creature removal spell. 2 mana, 1 white, sacrifice it, destroy target enchantment. That can be an enchantment creature. It can be an enchantment like asceticism. Always get rid of asceticism. Always.
It's kind of like pacifism.
Always get rid of asceticism.
Always.
Then next up we have Suture Priest, because I can't get this. There we go. Suture Priest, 1 and a white. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may gain 1 life. Once again, that doesn't specify non-token or token creature. So it just says a creature. And then it says whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you may have that player lose 1 life. So not only is it gaining you life, it's sapping the other players for playing their creatures. So if you're against another token deck, you can hurt them a lot because they start going off. They're playing an aristocrat style deck. They're getting a lot of tokens, sacrificing a lot of stuff. They're losing 1 life for each token that ATBs. While you're just gaining. You're almost like being a vampire, and you're just slowly sapping the health.
Oh yeah, no. Suture Priest is one of my favorite cards from New Phyrexia.
Definitely,
it's phenomenal set, by the way.
I think this is a must include in almost all mono white decks or white black decks.
Honestly, it's good token protection.
Definitely. Then we have the Birth of Meletus. It is a saga for 1 and a white. First step, search your library for a basic plains card and reveal it and put it into your hand. It's another form of ramp. It's not nearly as good as land tax. But the second step I find to be very beneficial. I thought the second step was like, okay, you get a 0/4 wall, but I can't say how many times that 0/4 wall has prevented me from taking a lot of damage from people going, just here's a bunch of small stuff, or just slowly taking away my health. I think it's very good effect. The third one, you gain 2 life. That's the one I'm a little disappointed by. It feels like gain 3 life or 4 life. I'd be okay with it. But 2 life, eh.
Yeah, but anything more than 2, then I feel like the casting cost would have to be just a little
Definitely have gone up. Yeah. Tithe Taker. For those who don't know what Ghostly Prison is, for example. Oh no, sorry. This isn't the Ghostly Prison one. That's a different card. This one says during your turn, spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast, and abilities your opponents activate cost 1 more to activate, unless they are mana abilities. Afterlife 1. When this creature dies, create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. So it's a sense of protection for your board because now they have to expend more mana. But in case you didn't realize, that second part of that, where abilities your opponents activate cost 1 more to cast, they are now having to pay 1 mana for each Planeswalker ability that they activate. So I didn't realize that until someone played this against me, and I was playing a Grixis Planeswalker style deck. It sucks because you're like, yeah, Planeswalkers +1/+1 -1 +2 -2 abilities, and then you're having to pay mana for all that. It doesn't.
Oh yeah,
feel
that's a kick in the shins.
Yeah, pretty much. But that brings up to our 2 drops. Next up, we have our 3 drops. Commander Sphere. It's a mana rock with a sacrifice it, draw a card ability. Court Street Denizen, 2 and a white. Whenever another white creature enters the battlefield under your control, tap target creature and opponent controls. So it's almost a blind obedience. It's just that when a white creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get to choose what creature to tap down. I'm going to skip that one real quick because I'll go over my obsession with this card later. Core Celebrant. Okay. Core Celebrant or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life gain. Linden, creature you would control attacks, you gain 1 life. She has vigilance as well. Mentor of the Meek. So along with ramp, mono white does not have a good sense of card draw. And so Mentor of the Meek, especially in this style deck, as you can tell, I have a lot of 2 drops that are like 1/3s or 1/4s. A lot of 2 drops that don't have a lot of power. Mentor of the Meek states that whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, you get to draw a card.
Much needed card draw
in this deck. Oketra's Monument. White creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. It's not ramp, but it's subtracting your total CMC. So like this Anointed Priest, instead of costing 1 generic and a white, it now just costs 1 white. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance. Also very flavorful because look at your commander. Okay,
I'll say that.
It's, I find it funny. So I threw it in the deck.
Honestly, it's a good artifact to have. Especially with all the ETB effects that we've got.
All of the monuments, except for like Kefnets. I didn't really like Kefnets very much, but all the monuments are really good for Mom and Cat.
Yeah. Oketra's and Bantu. Those are my 2. Those are the staples for me.
I believe I have a Ronus monument in my Gahiji deck. I may have to double check that, but either way, that's another deck tech for another time. Topple the Statue. It's an instant tap target permanent. If it's an artifact, destroy it. So if they have a turn 1 Soul Ring and it's causing problems, Topple the Statue helps get rid of it. Or if they have any other artifact, let's say they're playing an artifact creature deck.
I was going to say Lightning Greaves.
Yes, very good. Very good. I forgot about that one for a second. Excuse me, I got to take a drink. Not used to talking this much. Next up, we have Vren Wingmare. Once again, it's kind of like the Tithe Taker. Non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. It's just helping slow down your opponents, so to speak. They're having to spend more mana to cast their spells if it's a non-creature spell. So back up to this card.
Yes, crib swap.
This card is the epitome of jank, and I freaking love it so much. It's 2 and a white for a tribal instant shapeshifter. Changeling, this card is every creature type. Exile target creature. So it's a removal spell. Its controller creates a 1/1 colorless shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. So basically they have a Craterhoof Behemoth. It is now a 1/1. It's a great card, great removal. But I just want to go over the fact that it is a tribal instant with Changeling. So you can run this in a deck that like mono elves. And you have, let's say you have a commander that says whenever you cast a creature spell of this type, you get some kind of benefit. Crib Swap activates that ability because it may not be a creature, but it has that keyword of tribal and Changeling. And it's just so fun to play with. It really is. Like, I'm trying to think of a deck that I have now that runs like a I can't name any off the top of my head, but more fun. More fun. It doesn't, whatever deck techs you viewers or you, Josh, may think of that you go along the tribal route and it has white in it, put Crib Swap in it. It is so funny to just play this card. And I just love it. I love this card for absolutely no reason other than it being the card that it is. Also, it's just think this little gnome lady. She's just wandering about, shopping on her own day, and she walks back to her crib like, "Hey, honey, how you doing?" And there's this gremlin in there. She's
Oh yeah, no, the artwork on this card is nothing short of amazing.
I gotta see who the Brandon Dorman. Excellent work, my guy. Excellent work on that card. Love it. Absolutely love it. Next up, we have our 4-drops. Alms Collector. It's a great card to start out with on the 4-drops. First off, keyword is flash. If an opponent would draw 2 or more cards, instead you and that player each draw a card.
Card draw.
Yep. Someone wheels. Someone plays Windfall and wheels away their hand and your hand and everybody's hand. You play Alms Collector. Instead of everybody drawing a new 7 cards or new however many cards, you draw, each of you draw 1 card.
Ooh.
Yep. If an opponent would draw 2 or more cards, instead you and that player each draw a card. So they cast Windfall, you flash in Alms Collector, everybody only gets 1.
Oh, that would be cruel against like Teferi's Puzzle Box if you could flash that.
A friend of mine, CJ, he played a Niv Mizzet style deck. As you know, Niv Mizzet, or he alternated it between Niv Mizzet and Locust God, depending on how he felt at the time.
Yeah.
All it was card draw, and then pinging opponents, getting tokens, stuff like that. Alms Collector was one of his. Fun fact. CJ is the reason I built Ruric Thar, because I was tired. I was so tired of losing to Niv Mizzet and his spell slinging deck, because it was wonderful. It was a beautiful, masterfully done deck. And I was like, I am so tired of losing to this deck. I'm going to build a specific deck to counteract this whenever he plays it. And so therefore I built Ruric Thar.
I feel like that's how some of the best decks come about, is because of for that sole reason of I am tired of losing to said deck, and so I'm going to build this deck. Next thing you know, it runs the table.
I love it. Spite is a great motivator.
That's how I built my Obosh deck.
Ooh. Next up, we have Angel of Jubilation. 1/3 white mana. Flying. Other non-black creatures you control get +1/+1. All of your non-token creatures in this deck, well, not all, but most of the non-zombie creatures, because Oketra said you get a black zombie creatures, but most of everything else in this deck is going to be non-black.
Yeah.
So they get that Anthem effect. They get that +1/+1. The third ability, though, is why I put it in the deck, though, is because it says players can't pay life or sacrifice creatures to cast spells or activate abilities.
That shuts down Font of Agonies.
Mm-hmm. What is it? Oh gosh, Bolus Monument.
Oh yeah.
Crick or Kirik, son of Yawgmoth, completely shuts them down because they can't pay that life to activate those abilities.
Yeah.
Archon of Absolution. This is the one I was thinking of. That was the Ghostly Prison.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's also really funny because it has protection from white, and it's a mono white card. It's weird. But anyways, it states that creatures can attack you or a planeswalker you control unless their controller pays 1 for each of those creatures. Bless you.
Excuse me. Sorry about that.
It's all right. It's all right. We all sneeze. Achoo. See, I did it too, man. It's Hedron Archive. 4 mana, tap, add 2 generic to your mana pool. Then you can pay 2, sacrifice it, draw 2 cards. Keeper of the Accord. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more creatures than you, you get to create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. Ooh. You all right?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I'm good.
Okay.
Hashtag not COVID.
Hashtag not COVID. Yep, pretty much. Second ability states at the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more lands than you, you may search your library for a basic plans card, put it onto the battlefield, tapped, and then shuffle your library. So it is token generation and ramp on a creature. Goes in height. Do we need to get you some holy water to help heal you?
Okay, sorry about that.
All right. Just
I'm not dying. I'm good.
Oh, it's okay. I'll like drink water at work and I'll somehow mess up and send it down the wrong pipe and I just start coughing. They're like, "Oh, get away from me." Like,
Yeah.
Guys, I'm sorry. I just can't drink water.
Mid-breath. It's not the road now.
It's not. I swear. Oh, man. But Keeper of the Cord, I had to include it because token generation and ramp.
Yep.
Leonin War Leader, as I stated earlier, if I can get it. There we go. Leonin War Leader, whenever it attacks, create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink that are tapped and attacking. As I said before, it's lifelink and token generation, both things that you want in this deck.
Yep.
I'm going to skip over that one for now. Mangara the Mangara the Diplomat. Mangara the Diplomat. Legendary creature, human cleric, lifelink. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, just attacks with creatures. If 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or a planeswalker you control, you get to draw a card. And then whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card. Card draw in mono white, please. Please give me more.
Yeah.
He's wonderful.
We've been asking that of Wizards for how long now?
Since Magic started,
Yes.
I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. Palace Sentinels brings in the Monarch command mechanic. Sorry. Monarch, wonderful mechanic. Absolutely love it. I have to play with it.
Yep.
Ravnik at War. It's a board wipe. Exile all multicolored permanents. So it protects your side because you're in mono white. Sets Tiger, Flash, ETBs. You gain protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. It's a stated protection. Someone tries to single target removal, something that you don't want them to remove. Flash in Sets Tiger. They can't do it. Sarah the Benevolent. one of two planeswalkers I have in this deck. Sarah, I mean, other than OG Tybalt, all planeswalkers are a must include in most decks because they're planeswalkers. They're not only do they, let's say a person's attacking you, you have a planeswalker. Now they want to attack the planeswalker. So it saves you a couple turns. They have wonderful abilities that usually protect themselves. So like her -3 ability, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. It's a form of protection for her. Yeah, it puts her down to 1, but she's not gone. Also, I just want to point out if I can get this ad to go away. Where do you go?
That it triggers Bishop of Wings.
Yes, Bishop of Wings. Whenever an angel enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life. So not only does it trigger that, her first +2 creatures you control with flying get +1/+1 until end of turn. Not a lot of your stuff has flying, but whatever does gets a buff. And then her ultimate says you get, which is only a -6, by the way. You play her +2 her, the next turn you can ultimate her, which is wonderful. You get an emblem with, if you control a creature, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. So as long as you control a creature, you cannot lose the game unless specifically stated otherwise.
With some of my decks, she'd have to go. Be like, nope, don't want her on the battlefield. Nope.
She's one of those that instantly turns the game into like, yep, let's get rid of that, attack this person.
Yep. She's a nice lady.
She's very nice. She's a very nice lady. And then Shatter the Sky. Each player who controls a creature with power 4 or greater draws a card and then destroys all creatures. So it's a card draw and a board wipe. It's weird, but it works. And here's the second planeswalker I have in the deck, which is the Wanderer. Prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to you and other permanents you control as a static ability. So someone lightning bolting things or shocking things. Prevent all non-combat damage to you and permanents you control. And then it has removal on her. So
yeah, she's very underrated, I feel.
I think so too. Also, she had a small cameo in Brain. Come on, work Brain. I keep referring to it as the Godzilla set.
Oh, Ikoria.
Thank you. Kept wanting to say Eldridge, and that wasn't right. She had a small cameo in Ikoria. Only 1 card. And I just thought that was funny because she's the Wanderer. She wanders between the planes. And so I hope Wizards does more with her in lore, with the lore, or just does small cameos with each set in each plane, because I think that's amazing. I think it's funny. All right. Going back up, we have Oketra the True. Once again, flavorful because your commander is God Eternal Oketra. She has double strike and indestructible, whereas your commander doesn't have indestructible. Your commander just says whenever she leaves the battlefield, you may put her 3rd from the top, whereas Oketra states that she is indestructible. You can't just outright kill her. And then she's a token generator on top of that.
Yeah. So
you pay 3 and a white. You not only get that 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance, it also activates all these ETB effects. All of these ETB effects. And then the last of the 4 drops, which I skipped over on purpose, is Mothra.
Yay!
Mothra. Freaking love Mothra. I've always been a huge Godzilla fan. Always have been a huge Godzilla fan. And so when they brought in the whole Godzilla stuff, like the Godzilla secret lair that had the lands, which I bought like 6 of them. I shouldn't have, but I did. And then all the collectors. I have all the collector Godzilla cards. All of them. Oh, it just feels good. And I'm going to make a super jank deck with them at some point. I don't know who the commander is going to be, but I'm going to call it Time for a Good Kaiju.
Ooh. I like that.
Or just kaiju time.
Either one works.
But other than that, Luminous Broom Moth is a wonderful card because it says whenever a creature you control without flying dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter on it.
Oh, I just thought of something jank.
Ooh, tell me. I want to know.
Okay.
I want to know.
All right, so
show me.
You have a whole bunch of creatures on the battlefield, including God Eternal Oketra, right?
Mm-hmm.
Luminous Broodmoth is on the battlefield. So is Altered of Dementia.
Yes.
Sacrifice all your stuff to Altar of Dementia that does not have flying.
Yes.
Luminous Broodmoth triggers. It all comes back stronger with flying. Sorry, guys, you're about to die.
One of two things. One,
Okay.
they don't have haste. So you have to wait a turn.
Fair
Well,
enough.
other than that, I love it. I'm going to expound upon this by saying just one word, which is a card. That card is called Solemnity.
Yes, that will shut it down.
It doesn't shut it down. Luminous Broodmoth specifically states, return it to the battlefield under its control with a flying counter on it. Solemnity states that creatures can't have any counters. So with Altar of Dementia, you just keep sacking all of your stuff, trigger a Luminous Broodmoth, get them back with no flying counters, and keep sacrificing them until you win.
Unlimited life.
Unlimited ETB effects, unlimited mill. It is in fact a infinite combo, which is why I did not include it in this deck.
That
I didn't
that
feel
is
right putting it.
janky. I love. Ooh.
Yeah, and so any viewers or listeners out there that want to try this combo out, please do. Please do. It feels good to successfully get it off.
Yeah.
It feels wonderful. It just feels Sorry. I have to move on. Otherwise I'll just sit and ruminate.
Yeah, we will sit here and talk about infinite combos, and this episode will be an infinite combo in itself. So
Yeah, we'll just keep going. Just keep going.
Keep
Haha.
going.
You started watching this, but the trick is you've been stuck. You're now in an infinite loop.
Oh, let's talk about some 5-drops.
5 drops. Let's go. First up, we have Bond of Discipline. It's a sorcery, 4 and a white. Tap all creatures your opponents control. Creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. So you have a bunch of creatures out. You can attack with them all, cast Bond of Discipline. You then essentially get rid of all of your opponent's defenses. Have all your stuff lifelink. Swing in, gain a bunch of life. They lose a bunch of life. It does a thing. Next card that does a thing is Cataclysmic Gearhulk. 3 and 2 white for an artifact creature construct. Vigilance, and when it ETBs, each player chooses an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, and a planeswalker from among the non-land permanents they control, and then you sack the rest. I keep saying it, but it does a thing.
It does a thing.
It does a thing. It doesn't always feel good, like if you have a commanding board state and you have to get rid of something that may get rid of your board state by getting rid of your board state from casting this spell. It doesn't always feel good to use it, but you get to at least keep some of your stuff.
Yeah, it's not a complete like Wrath of God or a
Yeah.
damnation that wipes everything out.
Exactly. Heck, you can choose this as one of your creatures or your artifacts when you cast a spell. So if you have an artifact that you want to keep and a creature you want to keep, you can choose Cataclysmic Gearhulk as a creature and keep the artifact, or switch it up, or keep Cataclysmic Gearhulk as your artifact and get rid of the creature.
Mhm.
You get to pick and choose with it since it has both of those subtypes.
I'd keep Daxos.
Yeah.
Lots of life.
I'd keep my commander personally.
Oh yeah, the commander. I guess
or
it would
Suture
depend
Priest.
on the moment. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
if you have Suture Priest on the battlefield, keep the Suture Priest.
yes.
Keep the Suture Priest. Next up, we have Cavalier of Dawn, 2/3 white, with a for a creature elemental knight with vigilance, and when it ETBs, you get to destroy up to one target non-land permanent. So it's a removal spell. They get a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature token. So once again, they have a Crater Hoof Behemoth. You don't want it. Well, I guess Crater Hoof it has haste. So you have some. They have a big, strong, scary. It is now a 3/3 golem.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever it dies, you get to return target artifact or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. So it's a minor form of recursion as well.
Mm-hmm.
Dictate of Heliod. It's an anthem effect with flash. There's nothing really more to it. You have a bunch of small stuff. Anointed Priest is a 1/3. Bishop of Wings is a 1/4. With Dictate of Heliod, it is now a 3/5 or a 3/6. It's an anthem effect. Divine Visitation. This is the enchantment card that I was talking about actually activating with Bishops of Wings. Sorry. Divine Visitation states that if one or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. So with God Eternal Oketra, you cast a creature. It's a 4/4 zombie, which is turned into a angel, which triggers Bishops of Wings. You gain 4 life, and then if any of them die, they now are replaced by 1/1 white spirit creature tokens.
Okay.
Or any of your smaller creature tokens that are created. Oh, sorry. I just realized something.
So with that card, just a quick thought that ran through my head. Why aren't we running Anointed Procession?
So once again, I wanted to include Anointed Procession in this deck. First problem, I only have one copy, and it's in Kahiji.
Fair enough.
Second problem, it then takes away one of my slots for one of my creatures.
Okay. That makes sense.
Whereas with Divine Visitation, and I misspoke earlier. I didn't misspeak because this is what happens. If one or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens are created instead. A lot to say. It has that effect. 4/4 zombie, now a 4/4 angel. Bishop of Wings says, angel ETBs under your control, you gain 4 life. Whenever an angel you control dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. That second effect is now null and void because whenever an angel you control dies, it is now creating a 4/4 white angel creature token, and you are gaining 4 life.
Oh. And then
it specifically says if one or more creature tokens would be created, and that is a creature token.
Okay.
And that's probably why I actually include it in this deck. I just blanked on it when I was talking about it for a second there.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, oh, wait a second. My 2 brain cells connected.
Trigger. That's what it turns out to be. Trigger.
That's exactly. Next up, Fumigate. Destroy all creatures. You gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way.
Mm-hmm.
Life gain, board wipe. Reverend Hoplite. ETBs create a number of 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens equal to your devotion to white. Your devotion to white at the bare minimum with Reverend Hoplite is 1. If you have Divine Visitation out, it is 3, and you get 3/4 white angel creature tokens. Trigger Bishop of Wings. 4 life. It does stuff.
It does angel things.
It does angel things. Route. You may cast Route as though it had flash if you pay 2 more to cast it. So instead of it being 3 and 2 white, you can cast it for 5 and 2 white with instant speed. Destroy all creatures that can be regenerated. A 7 mana board wipe is extensive if you want to cast it with flash.
Yeah.
It can be worth it. You just got to make sure you time it right.
I just like the artwork with Elish Norn.
Oh, Elish Norn. Oh, I love Elish Norn. And that's another tangent I want to go on, but I can't because
we'll save that for another show.
Next up, Slash the Ranks, 3 and 2 white. Destroy all creatures, planeswalkers, except for commanders. One of the new cards that came out in Commander Legends. I love it because you get to keep God Eternal Oketra. Your opponents, if they want to keep their commanders, they can. Because that's one of the worst feelings is when someone board wipes and you're like, well, now I have to cast my commander for the 4th time this game.
Right.
And so it helps the board, but also helps get rid of the board.
Yeah.
Thalia's Lancers, 3 and 2 white. First strike. When Thalia's Lancers ETBs, you may search your library for a legendary card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. It's a tutor. It's a tutor for a legendary. Now it just says legendary.
Yeah, so that could be legendary enchantment,
legendary land, legendary creature. Heck, legendary sorcery. I don't think there's any mono white legendary sorceries, but Rebirth of the Primeval, I believe, is the name of the card. Legendary sorcery. And that's our 5 drops. 6 drops. I'm going to start with Sun Titan. Sun Titan is a sense of recursion with a huge butt. He's a 6/6. And most of your stuff has CMC 3 or less. So it's great for this deck. Victory's Herald. Whenever this card attacks, attacking creatures gain flying and lifelink until end of turn. It's essentially a Bond of Discipline and or Bond of Discipline plus flying for your creatures whenever it attacks. Next up, I'm going to say Darion, King of Keldor. This is a card that I almost made into the commander instead of God Eternal Oketra. I didn't because I like God Eternal Oketra's ability better.
Yeah.
But Darion states that whenever you are dealt damage, you may put that many 1/1 white soldier creature tokens into play. Just whenever you're dealt damage, combat damage, spells, abilities. Whenever you are dealt damage, create that many 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. The thing about this card, all right, I'm going to pull up one card, and you'll know what it is when I tell you about it. And it works really well with Darion. The card is called Hostility. So not only whenever you take damage, you're getting tokens, which for the viewers out there, Hostility is a 3 and 3 red. So you can't include it in this deck. But if you are running any other white-red combinations, Boros combinations, this works really well. If a spell you control would deal damage to an opponent, prevent that damage, create a 3/1 red elemental shaman creature token with haste for each 1 damage prevented this way. So with Darion, once again, this is a jank combo, super jank combo. Whenever you're dealt damage with Darion, you create 1/1s. Whenever you deal damage with Hostility, you create 3/1s.
So I see your jank combo, and I want to raise it with mine.
Okay, go ahead.
So have Hostility on the battlefield, right? And of course have Darion, Stuffy Doll, and Brosh Taunter. Stuffy Doll and Brosh Taunter just go back and forth.
Yeah, just and it does say spell, so that can be a creature ability. It can be an instant. It can be a sorcery. It just says a spell.
Yeah. Well, and even with Darion, I mean, the fact that it says whenever you're dealt damage, that's really to any permanent you have. So between Brosh Taunter and Stuffy Doll, they go back and forth.
It's a lot of tokens.
Lot of tokens, a lot of jank, a lot of life, and just a whole lot of wonderful
stuff. Last up on the 6 drops, Yosei the Morning Star. which for the experienced Magic the Gathering players out there, it's an instant cringe when I say that name. Simply because Yosei the Morningstar is a 4-mana, 2 white for a legendary creature Dragon Spirit with flying. And whenever it dies, target player skips his or her next untap step.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to tap 5 permanents that player controls. That includes their lands. So it's in this deck because it fulfills a certain role, which is called prevention. And it does a good thing. It does a good job at it. It does a very good job at preventing players from doing stuff. You get to tap down the resources. They don't get to untap them. You can tap down their creatures. They don't get to untap them. If you really wanted to feel kinky with it, or cheeky with it, I should say. Cheeky. Cheeky is the word I was looking for.
Not cheeky, but cheeky.
You can tap down like one of their enchantments if you really wanted to. Like, let's say they don't have like 5 permanents that you want to tap down because all of their lands are tapped down. A few of their creatures are already tapped. You can tap down their enchantments, their artifacts. Just use your imagination.
Or if you really want to be cheeky, Archelaus Lagoon Mystic, the new legendary turtle shaman.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I have it somewhere.
So what you do is you tap that, and then the entire rest of the table, anything they play comes in tapped. And then that person is going to skip their turn. So they're like, well, I can't do anything about that.
Exactly.
Oh, man. This is why we love Magic. We can do all sorts of janky stuff like this.
There are so many cards in combinations. Mm-hmm. It's just bringing them to light. There's a lot. And hopefully that's something we can do with this channel. It's help bring to light some of these weird, strange combinations that you may have never thought of before.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's all of our 6 drops. 7 drops. First up, we have Akroma. I threw her in the deck because reasons, I guess. I'm honestly still not for certain if I actually wanted to keep her in the deck. I just really wanted the high drop.
She has some really good synergy for a card that we'll be talking about in the 8 drop slot.
Yes, definitely. She does a lot. So I'll go ahead and read her out. 5, 2 white, legendary creature angel, flying, first strike, vigilance, trample. So already has 4 keywords just on her. And then at the beginning of each combat until end of turn, each other creature you control gets +1/+1 if it has flying, +1/+1 if it has first strike, and so on and so forth for double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, protection, reach, trample, vigilance, and partner. And she herself has partner.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, she is an anthem for anything that has keywords.
Yep.
Anything with keywords has that. Next one, we have Emmeria Shepherd. Another angel. This one, since we're in mono white and we're going to be playing plains cards for lands, more than likely, you may return non-land permanent cards to the battlefield. So it's a recursion on a creature. I'll go ahead and state her out so that anybody doesn't get her confused. She says landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may return target non-land permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If that land, the one that you just played, is a plains, you may return that non-land permanent card to the battlefield instead. She's a 4/4 flying angel that has recursion on her. It's a good card to have in the deck because you're going to be playing lots of plains. You have a lot of stuff with ETB stuff, ETB effects. I figured she was a good card to have in here.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, well, as far as actual CMC stuff goes, we have our 8 drops. The first one is Parhelion II, which is a legendary artifact vehicle. Flying, first strike, and vigilance. Whenever Parhelion II attacks, create 2 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance that are attacking.
Oof.
And she also has crew 4. It also has crew 4. I don't think a vehicle has a gender, but if it does, I don't know about it.
If it does, it's just angels. You can also use the angel tokens, which would then make them fly this giant megazord of a vehicle.
Mm-hmm. It's almost literally a megazord.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You have 4/4 angels piloted crew 4. Use your angel to crew the Parhelion. It attacks, create 2 more angels. Anointed Priest, or sorry, not Anointed Priest, Bishop of Wings, triggers Bishop of Wings, gain 4 life for each angel, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
There ended up being a lot more angel stuff in this deck than I had originally intended for the deck. But angels are one of the more powerful tribes in Magic, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
And since you're in mono white, that's access to almost every single angel.
Mm-hmm.
Since most angels are white. There are some that are in white and black. There's the Gold Knight Castigator, which is mono red.
Mm-hmm.
They're spread out far and thin, but we're in mono white, so that's where the home of most angels are.
Yeah.
And so I put this in as a win con. If I was looking through the deck list, and I was like, I don't have that many win conditions in the deck other than like I gain life, I make you mill cards, I have a commander that's a double striking 3/6, which that's great for commander damage if you want to go that route. But then I was like, I have 1 white card. It costs a lot, but it's definitely a win condition if there ever was one in mono white. And it's this guy. Zatalpa. Primal Dawn. The big dino, or as my friends call it, keyword pterodactyl.
Yep.
That's what he is. 6 mana, 2 white for a legendary creature, Elder Dinosaur. Flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, and indestructible. Keyword pterodactyl. And partner that with Acroma. It gets all those +1/+1s from having those keywords. It's already a 4/8 with double strike. So it's going to be
becoming a 9/13.
Yeah. With double strike.
with double strike. Someone will die by the time Zatalpa comes out. If you have a Chroma already on the battlefield, you might as well scoop.
Yeah. It's a win condition. I put it in the deck for a reason. And that's the deck. That's the whole thing. There is one thing I have to say about this. There is one route that I could have taken it that was suggested to me.
Oh.
And there's a lot of cards that would actually make this into a competitive style deck that I didn't include because I like my jank stuff. I like having fun with it. But if I go over here to EDH Rec, which is a wonderful tool, it gives me all sorts of stuff for high synergy for making this more of a competitive style deck. And those are cards like White Mane Lion, Stonecloaker, Core Skyfisher, Bygone Bishop, Emancipation Angel, Just Guy Barricade. Literally almost all of these cards state that whenever this creature ETBs or whenever you cast this creature, you return a permanent to your hand, which you can then recast and bounce something back to your hand and recast to bounce something back to your hand and so on and so forth, and just keep casting creatures that way.
Yeah.
To get those 4/4 black zombie creature tokens, to keep getting that triggered ability off of your commander, to keep getting those ETB effects from the life gain creatures such as Daxos. I already have a style of deck that's based on Blink. It's Afara, Goddess of the Polis, which states that whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, at the beginning of the next end step, you may draw a card.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's already a Blink effect that holds most of these cards. And we'll probably discuss that deck tech along the line at some point. Because once again, it has a bunch of super jank combos.
Yeah. It's about as janky as my Brago King Eternal deck, which is a blank, a blink deck as well, where I just create tokens out the wazoo, and all it takes is just one little hit with Brago, and bloop.
Yep. Just blah, blah, blah. Ping, 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 ping. Effect, ETB, effect, ETB, effect. And I've won. Ha ha. What are you going to do? Suck it. That's what you're going to do.
Love it. This is a fun deck. I feel like white is very underappreciated in Magic. And so I was definitely surprised when you're like, hey, by the way, I'm going to be going over a mono white. And I'm like, ooh, you have my attention, because I've seen your Ruric Thar deck, and it's a great deck. Don't get me wrong. But to have a mono white, that's not the Heliod Walking Ballista combo.
And that's why I chose this commander, is because I felt like it had a lot of potential to be more than just blah zombies.
Yeah.
So, and as you can tell, there's a lot of recurring themes throughout the deck. So you don't even have to have God Eternal Oketra throughout. You may not even have to cast her a single time throughout the game.
Yeah.
But you have all these other recurring factors, recurring effects, different win conditions that you can do other than God Eternal Oketra, which is one of the fun things the most fun things I find in commanders. You can pick a commander and build around it, kind of like how I built Ruric Thar. I built it around that card. Most of the deck is ramp to get Ruric Thar out, and then keep Ruric Thar out, and then have different things to build with them. It's kind of how I built it. Yeah. This one, I loved it because I could cast her and get the effects from God Eternal Oketra, but I could also just use her as one of the 99. I could also just sub in a different card. I could put Darion, King of Keldor, as my commander, and the deck would still almost function the exact same because of the different effects and just how everything works together. And I love it. Absolutely love it. The last thing I want to go over for this deck is just the land base. I threw in a command tower because it's a command tower, and I was like, funny. Emergent Zone. You may pay one and sacrifice it, and you may cast spells this turn as though they had flash. You want that ETB effect right now on someone else's turn before it gets back to yours when they know they'll interact with your board? Go ahead. Sacrifice Emergent Zone. Yeah, you'll take a hit to you'll be 2 mana short because you have to tap a land or tap an artifact to activate it, and then sacrifice Emergent Zone. But in the long run, that's going to benefit you more than having to wait until your next turn. It's casting things. One of the things that Josh LeQuai and I agree on is having access to flash abilities is a wonderful thing. One of his favorite cards is Vedalken Orrery.
I was going to say it's Vedalken Orrery.
It's Vedalken Orrery. And although I didn't include Vedalken Orrery into the deck because it takes away from one of my creature slots, this takes a land spot, and I figured that would be okay since most, as you can come over here and see, most of the things that I am casting through this deck are low CMCs.
Yeah.
Which is why I only have 29 lands, which is on the very low side. Normally I'll run 33 or 34 lands.
Yeah.
The one time I built Keranos, I had 80 lands.
Yeah, we'll have to do that on another episode. I'm like, wait, what?
Oh, yeah, it had 80 lands because of its ability. It's super fun. But like you said, another episode. Evolving Wilds. I honestly don't know why I put Evolving Wilds because you're going to be getting planes, but I figured why not? Every deck should have an Evolving Wilds, at least one. New Benalia. Heck, Evolving Wilds with the Emmeria Shepherd.
Yeah.
That's a nifty little combo right there. You want something on your battlefield before the start of your turn? Have Evolving Wilds. Wait until the guy goes right before you. During their instep, sack Evolving Wilds, get a planes, trigger Emmeria Shepherd, get a Sign Titan, attack with it next turn. No, yeah.
Yeah, because
double
then you avoid summoning sickness. I mean, if Zatalpa
Mhm.
sitting in your graveyard, boom,
Yeah.
cheat out Zatalpa. Sorry, you're gonna die.
That's one of the few keywords it doesn't have is haste.
Yeah.
So that's a great example for it. Rogue's Passage. If for some reason, if you don't have anything else to do, and the only thing you have on your battlefield is God Eternal Oketra, she's now unblockable. She's now an unblockable 3/6 double striker. So that's 6 commander damage on the board to somebody. That's another direction you could take this deck. You can make it into a Voltron deck if you wanted.
Yeah.
But and then Nupenalia.
I don't know if I'd want to take in the Voltron. I like the route that you've gone with it. Just because not only are you making a ton of blockers, but I mean, once you get Sarah the Benevolent and the Wanderer out,
it's a bunch of stuff. A bunch of stuff happens. I threw Nubenalia in there because 1, it taps for white. 2, it's a scry ability.
Yep.
Why not? And then I run 24 planes. It doesn't seem like a lot, but as I said, most of your stuff is on the low CMC side of things. Yeah. So, but that's that.
I like it. I like it a lot. So I may have to play against it one of these days.
May have. If we ever, play in person.
We could do that. We've got the ability. We could do it here.
We could. Cockatrice, I believe, is a free website that you can input your cards and then play Commander.
Or Spell Table. Spell Table. That's where it's at.
I haven't used Spell Table. I believe I've used Cockatrice once, and it was a while ago. And
Spell Table, because of the fact that you still get to shuffle your cards. Let's be honest. There's nothing more therapeutic than shuffling your deck.
Yeah.
It's a magic thing. People watching this are going to be like, I don't understand that. Trust me, when you start playing, not if, but when, you'll understand.
When, yes, definitely. The only time it's not therapeutic is when you have new sleeves and you just drop them everywhere and you're like, dang it.
That's or if the sleeves stick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had that happen too. So awesome. I love the deck. Absolutely love it.
Well, thank you. I put about an hour's worth into thought about it. I just literally, I finally picked up the Commander and I said, okay, what cards do I have laying around that I can build this deck? And I looked through, you can see in this back corner, most of my cards. That's not even half of them that you can see there.
Yeah.
But they're there. I have a lot. And I literally said, how many white cards do I have that would work well with this deck? And so I just went through, pulled them all out and said, okay, this will work here. This will work here. This will work here. This will work here.
Yeah.
And it was about an hour and a half later, I had this deck.
But that's what makes Magic fun. The building of the deck. So awesome. I love it. And for those of you watching, listening, I hope you love it. And it's actually relatively budget friendly for it being a focused deck.
There are a few cards you can take out and it would still work just fine. I believe I have to pull this back up, but a land tax, you can take land tax out and that's an instant $30 off of it. Yeah. I'm trying to find Darion, King of Keldor is like a $4 card. Sarah Ascendant is almost a $20 card. You can take that out. You don't need it.
Yeah.
It's fun, but you don't need it. The Commander itself is $7.10 from TCG Player.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a lot of cards. Oh, I guess where'd it go? Sarah Benevolent. Yeah. It's like I said, a lot of these cards I had laying about Then again, I have a lot of cards.
Yeah.
But you can go to your local game store. You can probably find quite a few of these for relatively low cost. It's fun to play with. It's fun. It was fun to make.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed playing it.
It's fun. It's just fun to mix it up as well. Because if you're playing the same deck over and over again, that just gets old.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't like it to get old.
Yeah. Nobody likes to get old. It was my birthday recently, so I'm still suffering.
Don't even. I think that's going to be the cue to let's go ahead and wrap this one up. We're going
to call that. All right. Well, Josh, and everyone out there, thank you again for joining us. I've had a blast. I've had so much fun being here. Hopefully, I look forward to being here more often with more videos, helping you guys more often. I love it. But until next time, I guess this will be Nightlight tapping out.
All right.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.com, all about comic pop culture.